Hi everybody. Today is Monday, August 19th, 2024, and I'm posting these videos as a form of therapy for the trauma of watching this BC NDP government lock up my brother for 588 days and then kill him. So my little brother Paul had Down syndrome. I'm 2 years older than him. I remember him being brought home from the hospital. And my mother had a hard time dealing with his disability. At first, he was the 9th of 9 children, so you could imagine. But I sort of took him under my wing, and I was going through some difficult things in my childhood. And caring for Paul and helping negotiate the world for him and with him was very therapeutic for me. I taught him to print the only word that he could ever print or read, his first name, Paul. Over many months, laboriously, I sat down with him and I taught him P, and then A, and then U, and then L. If he would often wander off because he had no sense of direction. So he would wander away and get seriously lost. And my parents would have to call the police and they'd always ask me to find him. I took him to Newfoundland twice and I was so proud of the way that I could interact with strangers with him and introduce him and translate what he was saying, because nobody could understand his speech. He had profound speech pathology, but I could interpret. And I was so proud of the way that I could integrate him into crowds or groups or strangers, and I explained what he was thinking, kind of like making him an ambassador for people with Down syndrome. So when I discovered in January of 2022 that my brother's group home of many years, L'Arche, L'Arche, had secretly created a power of attorney, or it's called a representation agreement, granting all of Paul's civil rights, every right that you could possibly have, who he was to associate with, what his medical care would be, everything, to my 81-year-old sister, who's actually, her birthday is going to be tomorrow. She's going to be turning 82. When I learned that, she's 4,000 kilometers away in Ontario, lives in a convent, and has never lived with Paul. She doesn't understand his speech, and she has never spent 1 minute alone with him. She doesn't understand his feelings, his communications. So what I discovered is that the group home L'Arche, a diabolical cult we now know, an SEX cult created by two SEX predators, they created a secret power of attorney without telling any of other Paul's surviving family members. He had 4 surviving siblings at that time. They only told the nun so they could give Paul the COVID-19 shot. Paul was never capable. He never had the capacity to appoint a representative or grant a power of attorney. And the signature on the document's a forgery. I know it's a forgery because I taught him to sign the only word that he can print, which is his first name. And he would never have understood it. So I'm posting these videos just to try and deal with the trauma. As I said, I had 2 sessions with a trauma counselor, but I couldn't afford any more. They're $160 per session. Anyways, so when I discovered that L'Arche had created the secret power of attorney, they terminated my visits with Paul for 588 days before he died. And I contacted the BC government every single business day. I went to their office every single business day with a letter asking just to meet with them, to tell them my side of the story, and to complain about the abuse. I was his only surviving visitor and family member left in Greater Vancouver. Everybody else has died. My mother has died. My brother has died. My other sister has died. Everyone had died but Paul and I. They never met with me once, and they only allowed a 1-hour visit in 588 days. So even federal prisoners, like in maximum security prisons, are allowed to visit with their family members. And a sibling, a sister, is considered a family member. So my brother was treated by this British Columbia NDP, New Democratic Party, with David Eby, who has appointed himself as Premier. The Premier, John Horgan, who was a very nice guy who I supported, he came down with cancer, unfortunately. And David Eby, who is just an evil, evil man. He was the president of the British Columbia Civil Liberties Association. And he's never seen a human being less interested in civil liberties. And he's a power-hungry, undemocratic creep. So he knew what was going on, and he kept my brother locked up for 588 days with no visitors. My last conversation with Paul on the telephone, Paul said to me on April 12th, 2024, he said, "Kathleen, take me to a movie." And he had a stroke the next day. I wasn't even informed about the stroke until April 15th. So they wanted to give the evil nun the opportunity to get back to Vancouver and take over in the hospital. They didn't want me to be able to visit him in the hospital. And after she arrived, I waited outside in the hallway for 10 hours a day. He only lasted 10 days at Burnaby Hospital. And he was recovering. She let me have a 10-minute visit once a day, and I could see that he was recovering, and I could see that look of survival in his eye. He wanted to try and live. But they took away his ventilator, they took away his catheter, they put him on some kind of deep sedation, and they killed him. I know what my sisters, and they did this. I got a telephone call from the government, from the federal government, saying that they were doing an investigation into this fraudulent and forged representation agreement. And I tried to explain it to a judge the next day, but we didn't have time to reinstate my visits or to get into it. And as soon as my sister learned that the federal government were looking into this fraudulent and forged representation agreement, I'm sure that she ordered the physician on the ward at Burnaby Hospital to kill my brother. And I watched it with my own eyes. I felt so helpless. I've never felt so helpless in my life. There was nothing I could do. I pursued every legal recourse possible. I paid for 2 expert reports. That's my suitability as a visitor. I'm still paying off. I borrowed $12,500 to pay for expert reports, and I'm still paying. I'll be paying off those loans till 2028. What I'm asking you to do is make sure that you vote on October 19th of 2024. Throw these New Democratic, Communist, Marxist assholes out on their ass. Throw David Eby out on his ass. I was a supporter of the New Democratic Party. Sven Robinson, the first New Democratic Party member of Parliament, I worked on that campaign. Back, I think it was 1978. But they're communist, Marxist assholes, power hungry. David Eby wanted to show me. I got the impression from the BC government that they just wanted to show that how tough they were, and they weren't going to listen to somebody just because they could. I was Paul's only family member left in Greater Vancouver. I never got to take him to a movie. I never got to hug him. So get out there, make sure you register to vote, make sure you vote. I understand, I hear that the BC United and the BC Conservative parties may be amalgamating, which would be a wonderful idea. I hope they do. The most important thing is to throw these new Democratic Party assholes out on their ass that killed my brother. I complained to every possible government agency that you could dream of. Paul was my friend. I miss him so much. We understood each other. We had private jokes. He liked my cooking. I can't say that about everybody. So just think of your loved one, somebody that you care deeply about. I don't know whether it's a son or a daughter, a spouse. And if that person was locked away from you for 588 days and then you watched the government kill them right in front of your eyes, that's what happened to me. So I'm in the middle of my 10,000 steps today. I did almost 26,000 steps yesterday. So I've got to get going. Thank you, everybody, for all your love and support. Paul, I miss you so much. I hope you're having fun in heaven with Mom and Dad and Murray and Harry and Teresa.